Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folaring alongside Cyril Abaku.
A very good morning to you.
Indeed. And schools are opening soon, so I suppose our parents are going to be happy. Depends on how you look at it. Our parents are going to be happy. Some kids are going to, well, you know how kids are. But jokes apart, it is an important thing for the schools to be reopening. And so we have our correspondents at a few locations to see how it's going. Uche Okoro will be in Port Harcourt for us, and I think Kazima, Sharon Ijason, first of all, in Lagos, southwest of the country where we're broadcasting from, and you know, whoever else we can get hold of to discuss this particular important subject. Now, I think we'll start off. We have a report, and let's go all the way over to Zamfara to see what it's like over there.
Public and private schools across the country have been closed for about 4 months to contain the spread of the dreaded coronavirus. The Zamfara state government has confirmed its readiness to comply with the federal government's directives for schools to reopen. The State Minister of Education says all is set for the reopening of schools come Tuesday, the 4th of August 2020.
The reopening targeted only the exit class. It means the bulk of the population of the student will not be in the schools. So that has also given us some level of confidence. Every classroom, every hostel accommodation in the schools will be fumigated first.
The Commissioner for Education in the state assures that all COVID-19 protocols will be adhered to in all schools.
We have recruited some very resourceful persons, and we have given them the technical protocols. We have procured a lot of chemicals.
The Zamfara government also reiterates its commitment to encouraging girl child enrollment in Western education. The Zamfara state government is determined that every child in the state is enrolled in school, as education is the panacea to poverty eradication and insecurity. Theophilus Darufai, TVC News, Gusau.
Indeed. Thank you very much to Theophilus.
Yes, and then of course we can now take Helen's package from Abuja, which she filed yesterday.
Okay.
The federal government had announced that secondary schools will reopen for students in exit classes from Tuesday, the 4th of August 2020. Students will have 2 weeks to prepare for the West African examination due to commence on the 17th of August 2020. To ensure resumption with safety, the federal government released guidelines ahead of the resumption. The guidelines include learners should be supported to stay 2 meters apart. There must be regular washing of hands and the use of face masks. Government Secondary School Wuse Zone 3 is now set for its resumption as the school commenced cleaning. Classrooms have been arranged to meet with the 2-meter social distancing directive. Hand washing basins have been put in place and free face masks are readily available. Paul Ago is the PTA chairman of the school. He is here to ensure that government directives are followed to ensure the safe resumption of their children.
I'm impressed with what I've seen in the school right now, because now there are clearance of the grasses around the school, and the school is providing some of the equipment to be used, like the face mask, the hand sanitizers. I'm here to represent the parents so that we can see exactly what is going on in the school, and that's why I'm here to see what have been put in place.
Nigerian schools have been closed since the outbreak of coronavirus pandemic in March.
The school was earlier fumigated last week, and this just to ensure that the atmosphere is conducive and it's in line with the federal government's condition for reopening of schools for exit classes in the country. Helen Osamede Akins, TVC News, Abuja.
Thank you, Helen. That report went out earlier, as always. So we still will be linking up with some other correspondents as we get them to just see how it's going. So as I was saying, important news that we're sort of tentatively, with all caution in place, reopening, our society. We can't just hand over to COVID-19 and roll over and die.
Of course we can't. Yes, so first sections of the economy, and then later on schools for students in exit classes. This was very clear. Students in necessary, so that they'll be able to write their WAEC.
Exactly.
So that we don't
it's not the entire school. We've got to put this in perspective.
So that we don't jeopardize mortgage an entire academic calendar. That's one. Number two is that if you read reports coming out yesterday and earlier this morning, you would find that NUT was threatening that, look, they're going to go on strike if schools are not in good condition, if teachers are not protected. But I would think that if what we see in this particular school in Abuja is replicated across the country, there perhaps wouldn't be any need for this sort of, uproar or outcry from teachers. So for what it is worth, education is on the concurrent list. So it means that state and of course the larger number of secondary schools are under state government purview. So it behoves governors and people in local government areas to see how they can. Here we saw the PTA chairman, not even the school principal, PTA chairman, that is Parents Teachers Association chairman. Also they're participating and seeing out. So parents and teachers and authorities have to come together to make sure that teachers are safe, the children are also safe. COVID is a reality. But like you said, the fact is that we cannot shut the nation down and wait until when COVID blows over. The WHO said yesterday or 2 days ago that, look, there is no blueprint to dealing, there's no silver bullet rather to dealing with COVID, which means that for a number of reasons, when we are going to get a vaccine is not yet certain. What we are going to and then even when the vaccine comes, for instance, we do not know just how soon it's going to go around everyone in the world. So the fact is that we have to begin to devise ways of cohabiting, if that's what to use, with the new normal. And so for starters, how we manage these exit students should give us perhaps a template for how we are going to perhaps reopen fully when next year comes.
Indeed. Good morning, Mr. George, and thank you for calling in.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling. Good morning.
Uncle Yori, I'm not in support of this opening because you see that all over the world, I'm not aware of any country where schools have reopened as we speak. How is it that our own is different? This was how the index case came in. Other countries were locking their airports and entrance points. For weeks, we left our own until it came. And you can see that the figures are still on the rise. So what is the basis of reopening schools? I cannot understand it. Number one, if the WAEC is an international body and is not isolated from the world, if I were the government, it is WAEC I would have tackled. Why do they have to fix exams in the midst of a pandemic? If this disease goes to be attacking our children, we know the people to blame. Good morning.
Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. George.
So I can address George's fears.
Sure.
The first one is that Nigeria was on the verge of losing out. WAEC is a regional but not international. Ghana is there, I think Sierra Leone, the Gambia, and so on. Now, the fact is that if Nigeria had pulled out of WAEC, those other countries would have gone ahead to write WAEC. So we are not the only ones opening up our schools, if I'm to put that in perspective. The other one is that he was talking about, there was something else he said about, I can't...
The figures are on the rise.
The figures are...
So what's the logic
but
putting our children in the public space?
If you say figures are on the rise, have you seen buses in public spaces? Figures are on the rise, but life is going on. So, I mean, this is my own personal opinion. My personal opinion is that we have developed a measure of herd immunity to the virus in Nigeria. This is my personal opinion.
Well, that's a delicate one because
you're
emphasizing that it is a personal opinion.
Because if we were to take a comparative view,
that's where we're going to have to get to ultimately. If we're going to have to cohabit with the virus, we're going to have some sort of a broad-based immunity where it is no worse than the common cold.
In Lagos State, from 20 now to 50.
Okay, Emmanuel has called in from Otukpo. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in. Good morning.
Greetings to Siri.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, this COVID-19 is like a war without end. And I think we must tackle it the way it is. We can't allow the students to remain at home permanently like this. So it's it's a very wise thing that the government is calling the exit classes to come and write their exams. So, but the one in there, the government should tell the principals and the commissioners of education with our ministers to please show the path of honesty and integrity, sincerity. They should not come up with a terrible figures of we spend this so amount of money to fumigate the hostel, to fumigate the classes. They should please lessen the corruption.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for calling in. Cyril, as you were saying, when you look at the pictures that we got from Zamfara, for example, those were indeed model. That was a model situation. And you had observed that, look, if this is indeed how we're going to be able to propagate this kind of an image all over the country, then many people will be reassured. But one can check that out. What is the likelihood that indeed that shall be the case and there shall be no cutting of corners? Because unfortunately we have been known to be reckless.
No, hopefully if you get Uche from Port Harcourt and maybe Sharon too.
Yes, we'll be able to compare notes.
And then I think in the coming days, we're going to have our reporters sending in reports from all over the country.
Yeah.
So that can serve as a barometer. The only other missing link that I feel, and yesterday I think TVC, we had the chairperson of the private school owners of Nigeria, the Abuja chapter. There was something she said which I quite agree with her. I cannot here recommend anything because it would amount to underhand advertising. But the fact is that children must also be given immunity boosting pills at school.
Okay, let's take Tony, who called in from Ilupeju. Good morning, Tony.
Okay, good morning, sir.
Thank you very much for calling in. Good morning.
Yeah, I can see the debate going on now. But my own suggestion is this school that they are showing us now that they are fumigating is what we know. We don't know of the rest of the schools. We have a lot of schools around the country very much. Yes. And they are just showing us exactly what they are doing now. And we are not sure if they will really do the proper work to tell us that this school is taking us. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please continue.
So to tell us that we are really ready to resume and let these children to go to the school safely and sound. Please, they should take all precautions right. And it will be safe for the children to resume now. It's very safe because everybody has to keep going. The world has to go on. You understand?
Okay.
We can't be waiting.
Indeed.
You know?
Yes.
So please, let them continue, but they must do the proper thing, just like the last caller said.
Okay.
They should be honest to what they are doing.
Okay.
God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Indeed. Thank you very much for calling in. And let me just apologize for Helen's report, the audio of Helen's report going on in the background as Tony was speaking. I'm sure that's a glitch. It shouldn't be. We shouldn't be hearing, any audio. So then
the instructive thing, that we saw from Helen's package, which I was pointing out, is the fact that it wasn't the school authorities talking to us. This was PTA. You remember that the Minister of Education had said, Adam had said that WAEC would not take place. It was parent pressure that brought it back on the table. And government said, okay, we are caving in.
Yeah.
So the pressure should not stop at getting government to organize WAEC. It must continue to the point of also ensuring compliance in the process.
Okay.
Which is to say, as I said, first, fumigation, cleaning of the environment. Of course, by now some of our schools, residents would have taken over the whole place. So, good. And then provision of hand-washing places,
I'm not sure
sanitizers.
The extent, I wanted to say, Sarah, I'm not sure the extent to which government can be pressured because, yes, it's a joint responsibility, but still, government is government. They're in charge of governance, and they have the best facts. And so if they felt that there is still danger out there, in there, because who has the majority preponderance of experts? I hope it is government. So it should be. So I don't imagine that there can be pressure, but it is still a talking point because we also talking about opening up houses of worship, religious houses too, and some religious leaders are actually pushing back against the notion of reopening. Pastor Tunde Bakare, for instance, former latter rain. It's now something else. But he has said that I'm a bit concerned about this. But I hope everything is well. So some people are expressing concern that can we do this? Should we be doing this? But there's also the other aspect of we have to open up society.
No, this is the fact. If you look back at in the past 4 months, when we have had this lockdown in place, 2 months down the line, I was reading very serious opinion saying that this lockdown shouldn't have been imposed in the first place. 3 months down the line, the voices kept on growing. Now, and so those who are not in support of it now will at some point, because you can't. So how long are you going to keep the lockdown?
Okay, let's take
1 year, 2 years,
let's take
3 years.
Let's take Garba in Makurdi. And we are in a third world country. You can't take remote learning for granted and all of this. Good morning, Mr. Garba in Makurdi.
Good morning for having me on Kiori. Good morning to Sri over there.
Good morning to you, sir.
You are doing fantastic job. You see, on Kiori, to be honest, to be candid, our parents, after government do their own responsibility, parents need to do their own responsibility. I wouldn't mind if the government and organization that the parents are working, they should excuse the parents whenever their children are writing exam. As a father, follow your child to the school, watch him after he finishes the exam, take him back, because children are very funny. Aside from the school and other things, when on their way going to school, you know how children are. They will wait for their friends, visit their friends, take their friends, playing on the road, even along the road there. Anything can happen, not necessarily within the school. We have to look at that aspect. Honestly, a parent, whether you are working anywhere, the government should exclude any parent that have a child in exit class when he's writing exam. The parent should go with the child, wait for the child, after the exam, take him back to home.
Okay.
Same thing the next day if he has exam. It's not like that. Honestly, all what we are doing is kind of, I will tell you that it's something that we are doing. We are curing this crazy and we are getting it out of that place. Because definitely the children, when they are coming back, you know how children are now. Definitely, even the SS3 that we're thinking that they are mature, maybe, you know how children, they're very funny. I can visit my friend or my girlfriend or whatever, play football, play all those kind of nonsense before they get home. And they can carry it there. From there, what do you expect? So the parents need to do the needful, and the government should assist the parent in terms of that. If any parent that have a child that in exit class, either SS3 or JS3 or primary 6, they should allow him to accompany the child to write the exam, finish, come back. If then they break, have a nice day in Lagos.
Thank you very much for calling in, Garba.
Yeah, so I understand we have Uche Okoro on Skype from Port Harcourt. Uche, good morning. Hello, Uche, can you hear us? Oh, well. Okay, Uche is on, but perhaps he can't hear me just yet. Uche, good morning to you. Maybe.
Okay, yeah. We'll try and get the sound sorted.
Yeah,
but Uche is standing by in there, and we'll get a report from him. Yeah, Uche, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning.
Uche, this is Cyril, not Yori.
But I'm here too. Oh, good morning, Cyril. Good morning, Uche. Now you got me. Now you got me doing it too.
Good morning, Gary.
Good morning, Uche.
Okay.
But Cyril wants to ask a question.
Yeah. So Uche, what part of Port Harcourt are you in?
Okay, right now I am in. I'm at Rumokoro, where the Federal Government College Port Harcourt is located. Right now I am in the premises of the Federal Government College Port Harcourt. It's a mixed school, meaning it is a school both for the male children and for the female children. There are 2 unity schools in the city of Port Harcourt. There is the Federal Government Girls College in Abloma, while this is the Federal Government College Rumokoro in Port Harcourt. So I am at Rumokoro, Port Harcourt right now.
So tell us what you've seen there so far.
Well, from what I see, I can say that I am quite impressed. But it is day one, and we do not know if I hope that what I have seen will continue throughout the period of this reopening. Now, I'll take you through my journey from the entrance into this school up till this point that I am. I am right where you can describe as the school field. As you can see, this is the school field. And if you look towards that, my far right, those are some classroom blocks where students will be taking their lessons. But I'll just take you through my experience from the entrance into the school premises. Right from the gate, the security men had to tell us to park our vehicles close to the gate and then come down, alight from our vehicles, have our hands washed, and get our temperatures checked. So from that point, we were then allowed to proceed to the administrative block, where there is also a hand washing point and some banners conveying COVID-19 messages and safety regulations. Also, from that point at the administrative block, I've had an interview with the principal of this school. She has given us a hint of how prepared they are. From the admin block, I could also cite 2 other hand washing points. And if I recall, I may not recall the statistics, but according to the principal, the school has made adequate arrangements for enough hand washing points here at Federal Government College, Port Harcourt. So far, I have cited 3, and I know that there are more than 3. According to her, also, there are 9 thermal scanners, 9 thermometers that will be used throughout the period of this reopening. 3 of these scanners will be stationed at the gate, which I have seen. 3 of the scanners will be stationed at the administrative block, while the principal also hinted that the remaining 3 scanners will be stationed in the classroom area to be used by the teachers and what she has described as a COVID-19 team. So apart from the teachers who the principal says have been trained to handle the situation, the development here, the principal is also saying that a COVID-19 team has also been set up with special training to deal with any eventuality. Now, that team comprises of the medical team of the school and also a number of teachers. If my memory of the school building arrangements is anything to go by, then that building by you can see there the green and white building. That the last time I checked, that was where the medical facility is located. Also, the principal of the management has also informed me that they've set up a waiting area because it's a school and it's pupils and students they are dealing with. They have refrained from using the word isolation center. So what the school is calling it is a waiting room where if any student presents with any symptoms, will be taken there and their parents will be called and so on. But so far, so good. From what I've seen, I believe that they are ready to, to resume as safely as possible.
What's the attitude, Uche, of the parents and students, as far as you can tell, to this partial reopening?
Oh, well, I haven't been able to speak to any parents, but I've spoken to some teachers. I've seen their body language. I think the teachers are quite enthusiastic. Because normally at the entrance into the school, you normally have just the security men, those in uniform, who are not staff of the school, as it were, at the entrance. But today, there are quite a number of male teachers assisting the security agency, security men rather, at the gate to get things rightly done. From what I've seen at the gate, I would say that the teachers are quite enthusiastic to resume. I spoke to during my interview with the principal of this college here. She has said that she's very excited because she's a teacher. She loves to teach. So they even though the school has put in place some e-learning strategies, it is nothing can be compared to that face-to-face interaction with the students. So from what I've seen, it is day 1 of the resumption. From my assessment, I would say that the teachers are quite enthusiastic. I've also had a conversation with 2 students, a male and a female. They are also very enthusiastic to be back in school. Though the downside for them is the fact that even though they are back in school, they also cannot freely, physically interact with their peers. But still, they would take that.
I see that. Even in an open field there with nobody like 10 meters close to you, you're being exemplary in wearing a face mask. Has that become something of a culture then? Can we take it for granted that the teachers and the students, even in class, will be wearing face masks?
Absolutely. Everyone is wearing a face mask. While driving into the premises, being alone in the car, the security guard insisted that even though we were in our vehicles, we had to use the face mask before driving in. So I mean, that just tells you that it will be enforced. All those I have interacted with, all those I have seen, in fact, the 2 students I have spoken to had their face mask on. So yes, that is going to be enforced. According to the principal also, normal capacity for every class, for an average capacity is about 40 students. But now the principal has told me that because of the need for social distancing, for instance, SS3A would be split to SS3A1. So in a class that would normally have 40 students, now going forward in FGC Rumokoro, Port Harcourt, each class would have a maximum of 20 students. Every student will be socially distanced. Markings have been made to indicate where the students will sit. So 20 students maximum per class as against 40, and every student will be socially distant and will also have their face masks on. So yes, it's going to be is the new normal as far as
indeed. Thank you very much, Uche. So that's our Uche Okoro over there.
Yeah, so from Uche Okoro, from Rumu Okoro in Port Harcourt, we will be joining Sharon Ejason here in Lagos. Sharon, good morning to you. Hello, Sharon. Sharon is standing by for us here in Lagos, where she's also monitoring how the reopening is being conducted around schools in Lagos. Yeah, she's our education correspondent. We do hope that as soon as we can.
I think, we were going to speak with Sharon, but, one or two little bugs got in there somewhere. So we'll, as it were, leave this segment. But TVC News, of course, is going to be on it right through the day. And we'll take a break now, and we'll go on to our next subject. Welcome back. Now, something we started yesterday, looking at the National Assembly has been very, very interested in it, and quite a lot of other Nigerians have also been interested in the topic. I'm talking about this sovereignty and the contract as it relates to the contract with Chinese, who we're partnering with. The National Assembly, as you're well aware, is probing the whole matter, and the National Assembly is aghast at what it sees as the signing off almost of our sovereignty in the name of signing up a contract with, the Chinese. But then we've since been getting explanations, first of all by the Minister of Transportation himself, that it's a business term, it's no big deal. If people are making this, in fact, the minister outright said that people were politicizing the issue. And we have with us today, first of our guests, Ambassador Ayo Olukoni, Nasima DG, and he's former High Commissioner of Nigeria to Australia. Good morning, Ambassador.
Good morning, Yori. It's nice to be here.
Good morning, sir. Yori Falani alongside Cyril Abaku here.
Thank you, sir.
Now, how would you, how would you give me your perspective on the concerns of the National Assembly and some others, and I'm sure you've also heard the minister's explanation of the issue. What is your perspective on it?
Well, thank you very much for having me here. I hope I'm clear. You're hearing me clearly.
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah, thank you very much. The minister is right. The whole doctrine of sovereign immunity, of course, has its roots in international law. And when in those days, the doctrine of absolute and sovereign immunity comes from international law and customary international law, that a king should not be impeded in the court of another king. That is, a sovereign cannot be impeded in the court of another sovereign, because in those days, the only thing that the state does is to maintain law and order, diplomatic relations, and things like that. So the concept of sovereignty was absolute at that particular period. But fast forward to subsequent times in history, when states started getting involved in commercial transactions, the whole concept of sovereign immunity moved from absolute immunity to restrictive immunity, especially in the area of commercial transactions. So that was when the whole thing changed. And that once as a state, you start getting area of commercial transaction, you must obey the rules and regulations of commercial transaction. So the king in those days was saying that, look, you cannot go to the market and take the goods of other people and saying because you're absolute sovereign, you will not pay. So you have to pay. The king cannot go to the market. That was the old concept as well. Then fast forward to contemporary times. There has been very many cases in international law. The case of the Philippine Admiralty is a very good example. It was a vessel owned by the government of Philippines, but it got into commercial transaction to carry goods and the other. So the case went to court. And of course, eventually, the Philippine government was held responsible that, sir, things have changed. This is no longer the period and times of absolute immunity. Commercial transaction you're engaged in. So long story short, we have moved from the old concept of sovereign immunity to restrictive immunity, especially once you go into the area of commercial transaction. And subsequently, maybe when I have time, and I must cite the case of Trendex versus CBN of Nigeria. It's a classic case. What was the fact of the case? 1975, if you remember, cement Amadas. We had a lot of money, all money was flowing, and there were about 300, 400 vessels on our high seas that were waiting to bring in cement. 1975, the CBN of Nigeria, acting on the instruction of the Ministry of Defense, ordered for 240,000 tons of cement. And of course, fast forward 1975, don't forget we now had the coup in 1976. And then subsequently, the case was reviewed and the CBN now gave instructions that, look, do not pay the company any longer because it has been found that we don't need industries. But arrangements have been made. The fund has been deposited in Midland banks in England, waiting for Trendex to be paid for the 2,040 tons which the Ministry of Defense ordered. Anyway, the long story was, at the end of the day, the case went to court. This was the period when there was coup. And 1970, by 1970, don't forget 1975, and then people have said, no, we don't need cement any longer. A lot of people, in those days, the vessels were on the high seas, and some of the 400 vessels, we only have capacity for 2 million tons, and we had about 200 million tons weight. So people were even dumping cement in the high seas and collecting money. The coup came, and of course, the CBN said, don't pay Trendex any longer. But it was the case of the federal government of Nigeria the CBN acting on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria, and then, of course, the CBN now claiming sovereign immunity. The case went to court. At the end of the day, Lord Philip, 1977 was that.
Yes.
No.
So
the CBN is acting on
the vexatious aspect, put vexatious in quotes, to the House of Reps that were probing this whole thing was that it had been written in very much a lot of what you are saying had also been written in that, look, should anything go, sideways, it's like we take it for granted that you shall not be invoking sovereign immunity. And there are many who don't see very much wrong with that because it's a loan and there must be some consideration, there must be some collateral. And so the minister had explained, I heard his testimony, that there's absolutely no reason, there's no danger, that it's almost like a formality. It's a business, it's something of a business procedure. It has to be in there just so that you cross your T's and dot your I's. But the minister had explained that there was absolutely no reason Nigeria would not be able to pay. 2.3% interest, a moratorium of 20 years. The minister said, as a matter of fact, we have started paying. He said we've paid almost 100 million out of a 500 million loan. And the minister rounded it all off by saying, speaking about the Right Honorable Rotimi Amechi now, that he felt all of this was being politicized and that he was a bit embarrassed. I think he used the word stronger than embarrassed. He said he was ashamed.
Uncle Yori, the minister is right, absolutely right. Most of these transactions which state and government enter into these days, they're no longer governed by by absolute immunity. It is restrictive immunity. They're all part of the transaction. it is being politicized. Look, if you strip off all the corporate bills, you will see the nitty-gritty of it in the agreement. We have to abide by that. That is the trend today internationally.
So the problem would be, sorry, Ambassador, the issue might then be, again, you expect the National Assembly to have experts at their disposal in order to do their work. So how come they sort of got it mixed up a bit and didn't know very much what you are saying? That might be
11 chances out of a dozen. The National Assembly, maybe the Judiciary Committee or whatever, have this fact or this case in their hands. The ministry, it is the Ministry of Justice. Maybe they can summon the International Law and Comparative Law Division of the Ministry of Justice would have also given the advice. Like, look, listen, distinguished members, please, this is right. Restrictive immunity is it. If you want to get this loan from China, this is the case. Because, and that was why I cited the example of the Trendex versus CBN case. I mean, that brings it home closely. That we've been through this part before.
One moment, Ambassador.
One
moment, Ambassador. Let me bring in Reverend Dominic. Good morning, Reverend Dominic.
Good morning, Yori. How are you today?
Very well, thank you.
Yori, I don't know what you're going to give me. I want to start from the first to this one we're talking about now.
Why don't you please come in on this particular one?
Okay, this particular one. Let's do the first. The particular one, Yori, I wish there's power 247 in Nigeria. I wish there's good road network. I wish there's water flowing, and we are the servants of China. That's my wish. I wish that everything, the water, the economy, the road network. Just a few days ago, your station was talking about a lady who died on an unnecessary death. A truck fell on her. I wish this truck supposed to be on the train. I wish there's railway all over Nigeria. There's power all over Nigeria. There's good road network, and we become another servant of China. We are servants of some people anyway. You're like this morning. $1 is $500 per dollar, $500 per dollar. I will not sell it already. Where you sow your money, 500
Reverend Dominic.
Hello.
Oh dear. I think Reverend Dominic wanted to speak about both subjects. We appeal to him to consider the current subject, which is this whole supposed confusion over sovereign immunity as it relates to contracts, and we have been explained to from day one.
Uncle Yori, there is no confusion about
at all. That's why I use the word supposed.
No confusion.
No.
The National Assembly members have, I'm very sure they have the facts, they have the case, they have, people have advised them. But like I said, it has been, and the minister is absolutely right.
Yeah.
If I give you a good example, the days we had the Nigerian National Shipping Line, we had the Nigerian Airways, a large number of cases against us in those days. Say, look, this is Nigerian Airways, but because we now operate restrictive immunities, there have been cases with Nigerian vessels, Nigerian shipping lines and others were seized in those places, and they had to pay for them. And let me give you a practical example as a diplomat who also practiced. One of our missions, don't let me mention mission, went on to take a loan from the bank in respect to meet some obligations. And the papers of the property was kept in the bank as collateral, there about that. If you default, we're sorry, you will lose this house. On getting there, and it was something which I was also personally also involved. I looked at it and we said, okay, fine, don't worry, we will pay you. Subsequently, we were paying bit by bit until we finished that and then got our papers back.
Exactly.
So the Minister of Transportation is very right.
Very right. One moment, Ambassador. Mazi Okorafo, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Sayori. Sayori, see, the history has told us that right now, what we are seeing internationally is that
Mazi
China wants to be that act as the world power, more than America or Russia or UK. Now, look at what is happening now between China, UK, and America. The TikTok, America G5, and the vaccine. Vaccine produced in Russia, but China said they went into that to scramble into that, which is so. Now, you ask yourself, if Nigerians are aware with the latest development between America, UK, and Russia that has to do with China, why must we still be marrying that type of marriage with China? Look, we have reached a stage. Social media have just expressed everything. Nobody in this country can hide anything for Nigeria. Whether we like it or not, as far as social media is going on in this 247, nobody, cannot hide anything for Nigeria because thank God for the social media. And the media has like people. Thank God for people, what people are doing every day in TVC. Every day you bring this program, at least topics that are very, very vibrant in society. So what I'm advising the government is this. To me, as a Nigerian, if I have my way, I will have nothing to do with China. Because let me give you an example before you think.
Mazi, we've got to go off on a break. But thank you very much, and we've taken your point. Ambassador, we'll take a break, but stay with us, please. We'll be right back. Welcome back, and we're looking at the subject matter, shall we say, because there's no confusion. Subject matter of sovereign immunity as it relates to contracts. And in particular, we're dealing with the Chinese government. You know, we signed a contract with them for a loan. There are people who have their own perspectives on the loan one way or the other. But as to whether I think the point was made of Zambia. Zambia suddenly finds some of its national assets under the control of the Chinese. There are Nigerians who think that was a bit, that situation is not a Nigerian situation. The potential doesn't exist. The minister was emphatic on that why will Nigeria not be able to pay? 2.3% annual interest, 20 years moratorium. We have already paid 90-something million out of a 500 million naira loan. So those are the parameters, but they wanted to, the National Assembly, in particular the House of Reps Committee, was grilling the minister, and he was doing his best to explain it.
Yeah, so my question would be, Ambassador, sir, assuming that there was a default,
yes,
and China was to invoke that particular clause,
yes,
could you walk us through, what that picture could look like?
Well, maybe perhaps, like I said, I had given the case in the past that we have been through this path before on the question of sovereign and restrictive immunity. That in the case of the Trendex part of CBN of Nigeria, eventually we had to pay. Luckily, the funds was already with Midlands. CBN was also saying, do not pay. This was 1975. Eventually, of course, we had to pay, eventually. But I think all the details, the nitty-gritty are always there in terms of contractual agreements like this. They say the devil is always in the detail.
Yes.
I don't have a copy of it, but I think the minister, of course, and his team has already gone through all of this. And of course, before crossing the T's and signing and dotting the I's. And this is why, like I said, as DG Nasima, we also make our members have an understanding in terms of the nature of international transactions these days. We've done a lot of programs and we are bringing them up on Steam in terms of fleets. If you go out there to have agreement transactions, commercial transactions, please look at it very well. Indeed. And ensure that as members, these are things which you can meet up to in case of any failure. We had a recent case. We were also on the right path. It was between a Turkish company and as well as one of our members who was supposed to have been given the funds back. We were intervening on behalf of our members,
Okay.
But I think...
One moment, Ambassador.
If you look at the
I beg your pardon, sir. One moment, Ambassador. And as the minister was saying, the Ministry of Transport and the Minister of Transportation does not sign contracts. That's off to the Ministry of Finance. And if there are no experts there, I don't know where there will be experts. So I don't know. The National Assembly Committee, seem to be wanting to, X-ray it and just make assurance doubly sure that Nigeria was not getting a raw deal. The minister has explained as much as he can. Let's hear what Mr. Olayinka, who is in Jos, wants to add to the conversation. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
Good morning to your colleagues there.
Cyril.
Good morning, sir.
I just want to talk about the first topic.
Sure. Oh, the first topic.
Yes.
Oh dear.
Briefly.
Very, very briefly, please, so that
Yes,
we don't
very,
lose
very-
focus
I
on
just-
this.
We Nigeria would like to deceive ourselves. These children, you say you are talking. Even during the serious lockdown, they are playing football within themselves. Even now, are they not meeting themselves on the pitch? People are playing together, do everything together. Why is it so difficult to return back to school? Why are we deceiving ourselves?
Okay.
The children will come in the evening, go everywhere in Nigeria.
Point
They
taken
play
on that
together
one.
every day.
Point taken on topic one. Now, onto this matter of sovereign national, sovereign immunity. Do you have any thoughts on that? Oh, he's gone.
To allow these children to go back to school.
Okay. Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. Lainka in Jos. He objects. He objects to going back to school. Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. Lainka.
Hello?
Mr. Lainka. Good morning, sir. Are you still there? Yeah. Olainka in Jos. Okay. He's not there anymore. Sorry about that.
Uncle Yori, don't let us lose one fact.
Sure.
This issue we're discussing now did not start just yesterday. And so members of the National Assembly who are querying and asking questions, should dig back and look at what has happened, before we got onto this.
They have already approved the contract as a matter of fact.
Yes.
Which is one of the problems that the minister made. And he had said, if you remember, sir, that, look, if you carry on like this, you get people jittery. You get our contractual partners jittery as to what's going on in Nigeria. The highest policy bodies are
loggerheads.
It's also not good for our reputation in the international environment. It is not good for our reputation. Nigeria is key. Nigeria is important, even despite all the crises which we are having. It is not good for our reputation.
Indeed.
These periods are also gone. We are entering a new international global economic environment. We should not enter that with the garbage of a nation that will not keep to the whole question of restrictive immunity and respect for our transaction.
Okay, one moment, Ambassador. I got to quickly squeeze in Mr. David in Abeokuta. Good morning, sir. Quickly, please.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in. Good morning.
Thank you for the good job you are doing.
Oh, you're very kind, sir.
Yeah, my very first response is that Nigeria got this loan, the $500 million from China for the purpose to upgrade our infrastructure, most especially the railway. We got the loan basically with the purpose of paying back. Unless they are not willing to pay back, that is why we can be somehow experiencing some kind of fear. Now, if the National Assembly are against the issue of sovereignty and the restrictive sovereignty concerning this loan, you don't have any other option? Is there any other alternative? Like the transport minister said, we are still paying this money. This is a loan that gave us at least 20 years of moratorium. And they are
20 years.
Even before the expiration of that 20 years of moratorium.
Yes.
Meaning that we have belief, we have ability to pay this money back.
Thank you very much. I've got to let go of you now, David, but thank you very much for adding your voice to it. And that's because we're fast running out of time. In fact, we've almost run out of time. But Ambassador Lukone, I'd like to thank you very much, sir, for shedding light on this subject and putting, as it were, minds to rest that these are standard business practices. And as Mr. David was just saying, if you are not of the mind that I'm not paying anything, there is no danger. It's a standard business practice. So once more, thank you very much, Ambassador Lukone, and thank you to David and all the other people who called on both subjects. Sorry we wouldn't address you both subjects on the phone, starting from Mr. George, who said that he wasn't down with this reopening of the schools at all, and a number of people have said that, whereas other people are also speaking for the other side, saying we can't have kids at home forever. So that's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. Cyril Abaku and I say stay safe as much as you can.